Hi everyone, my name is Alessandra Merino, and my major is in cellular molecular biochemistry. Yes, I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but a little bit about me is that I'm a bit of a nerd. Anyways, today I'll be talking to you guys about what I think the association between money and happiness is. I hypothesize that mental health and living with purpose are contributing factors in money increasing happiness. So basically, you only get happiness with those conditions in place. So let's get started. The articles I found were particularly interesting. We have Greenan, which conducted this study where they found that people were happier when they were given money to spend on others rather than when they were spending it on themselves. And even the next study kind of emphasizes those conclusions, as in Acton, Dunn, and Norton. They found that when people thought about a happy moment or memory when spending money on others, they were more likely to spend money on others again. So it was sort of like this positive feedback loop, which makes total sense, right? And now, onto the last study. It was made by a person whose last name I cannot pronounce for the life of me. I'm not even gonna try. But they found that money didn't fully let people be happy. They saw that the more money people had, the less appreciative they were of the small things in life, such as eating a chocolate, something super simple. So, this just showed that money isn't everything, which doesn't completely pair up with my hypothesis, right? So, moving on exactly to what I was talking about, my hypothesis stated that happiness is dependent on money, on the conditions that one has good mental health and that they live with purpose, making it a positive relationship. And to move on to the data collection, the most interesting findings were that most of the participants, 83% to be exact, didn't really see money as an independent variable in happiness and viewed money as a way to get rid of worries only. Also, mental health was not a factor in this money and happiness association at all, except for 70% of the participants, which totally contradicts my hypothesis, right? And lastly, during my interview, it was super apparent that the person I chose only saw money as a way to establish stability and didn't really see money as the main factor in her happiness. The other factors were her family, love, relationships, something I didn't quite expect, but it also makes total sense because that's also very true to me. Like, those are whatever she was saying, I would just be like, wow, like, that makes sense to me. Like, I would answer the same way. Um, so, so that was that. And now on to the limitations of my study. The biggest one that I noticed was the small sample size, which was not allowing for good conclusions to be made that were actually representative of the population. And to let me explain a little bit more here, this was especially requested by Trinidad, our professor. So, there are a couple of things that affect the significance and power in a study, and one of the main ones is sample size. And to get a little bit technical, a sample size that is too small increases the likelihood of a type 2 error, which we learned about in class. And we know that this can mess with the results. Also, a small sample size reduces the chance of detecting a true effect. So, consequently, it reduces the chance of having a statistically significant result. Basically, to sum it up, a small sample size leads to less conclusive results. And I'm sure we all saw this when analyzing our surveys. Because didn't you all wish you could have read more responses? Because I know I did. I felt like I could have just had better conclusions if I had more to work with, especially in the part about mental health where I only saw one participant, 17% of the participants not see mental health as a factor. If I would have had more responses, I would have been able to make better conclusions, right? So that makes sense. And now that you listened to that boring explanation, I concluded that to test my hypothesis in a better manner, a greater sample size would be needed. So around 100 or so people for the survey and at least 10 for the interviews. And lastly, in the future, my questions would probably have to be changed because honestly, some of them kind of sucked, which I realize now. And it's crazy, huh? Because it reminds me of the saying we say in Spanish, where it goes, que no te cae el 20 hasta que pasó. So, like, things don't really click until the facts. And so today I briefly talked to you all about my hypothesis, the way it was tested, along with some of my findings. So thank you all for listening and see you guys around.